Okay, so what are your thoughts on the consoles and ESO? So basically, that was one of the real big reveals at E3. The fact that they're going to have Elder Scrolls Online actually be released for PS4 and for Xbox One. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, it's going to kind of divide the communities because they're going to kind of divide it up by platform. But what are your thoughts in the fact that it's going to be the first, that I understand, massive MMO that's released on all those different platforms? So let's start with Evarwin.
Well, there's one thing I disagree with that you said, which is divide the communities. I don't really think it's a division. I think as far as it releasing just to PC, I think the PC crowd was really excited to get an Elder Scrolls MMO, but the console players were getting left out. I see it more as like an inclusion of those guys, and I think it's overall, I think it's a really good announcement. I think it's something that was necessary. You know, one of the biggest things that Elder Scrolls fans have always had is their game available on console and PC as well. And, you know, a lot of people that were writing into our show were saying, how come it's not available on console? So now it will be. And they're excited, and I'm excited for them. I think it's a wonderful thing. In this regard, yeah, I do. I think more options can't be a bad thing.
I am 100% with Ivarwin on this. It's not excluding a community or dividing it. It's adding more to the community. And now's the time. The new consoles are little computers in a smaller box hooked up to your TV. It's never been like that before, and you were wrong. There were other MMOs that did go multi-platform that were considered mainstream, but they worked out fairly well, but it wasn't the same thing as going from... The PC was miles and miles better. But now that the consoles are, in essence, PCs in themselves, the way they're doing the structure, I don't see any problem with this whatsoever. It's nothing but good for ZeniMax.
I agree. I think it's a good thing, and I like that, at least from what I've seen so far, that whole balance of MMO and Elder Scrolls game, it's starting to balance more back towards Elder Scrolls, which is great for console players because that's, I think, what they're looking for. Less MMO, more actual, like, first-person slashing and murdering. And I agree that when it comes to the actual construction of the consoles, they're more like PCs than they've ever been before. And I read something today that I am pretty sure is probably illegal, but from what I found out, apparently the building of a PS4 and Xbox One is so similar to PCs, it will make ROMs like that much easier for new things.
Oh, wow.
That's how similar they are. And so, you know, don't do that, kids, but you can do that, kids.
Well, first, I just want to make sure, can the people hear me? Because before they were saying they couldn't. Can they hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. All right, so you're asking about the UI and how that would, like, limit things for the console?
Right. Or not how would it limit it, but, I mean, how do you think it's going to, you know, play in terms of... I just can't imagine, you know, you having the same full UI that you're going to be able to have, because
Right.
you have a mouse and you can move things and you got your keyboard. I mean, what do you think the ramifications are going to be for the folks that are going to be playing with the consoles vice the PC gamers?
Well, like, for sure you won't be able to just, you know, obviously have a bunch of buttons you can go ahead and hotkey your skills to. So they're going to have some kind of, like, maybe a bumper system with a pinwheel type thing where you can select things to use. So, yeah, it's going to take more time to just cast spells and stuff like that, which will kind of limit consoles versus PCs, which is, for me, a good reason for them to split consoles from PC. because there's no way that a console player is going to be able to keep up with a PC player for specifically that reason. So I was like, originally I was thinking, it's like, well, why don't we kind of just link up at least the PvE versions of the Mega Server? But, you know, thinking about that, though, with the whole UI system and everything, it just wouldn't make sense to do that because of that. And whose baby face was that? I mean, I know I have a baby face, but it wasn't me.
Mark,
Mark,
really
they still
quick.
can't hear you.
They can't hear you, buddy, and they're hearing all your Skype notifications.
Can you guys hear me? Am I coming in? I think it's my turn to talk. You gotta love the delay, right? Creates
Oh, it's
such a
great.
nice.
Josh,
awkward-
you?
Awesome, they can hear me. Okay, so yeah, I was super bummed when I heard this announcement. Right? I don't want any Cheeto licking, Mountain Dew drinking, Call of Duty playing, console gamers messing up my Elder Scrolls Online. That's just not right. All right, PC chosen race all the way. No, honestly, when I first heard this, I was super excited for it because I have a lot of friends that like to play on consoles, and although I don't particularly agree with that, I play on consoles from time to time. I was looking forward to them buying a PC actually for this next generation so that we could play together. And the only thing that has me down about this announcement, in all honesty, is the fact that I'm going to be separated from some of my friends. So it's much more of a personal thing, you know, since we know that Xbox and PlayStation 4 and PC are all getting their own mega servers. I'll no longer be able to play with those guys. That's pretty much the only thing I had. I know there are some PC, I guess, elitists out there that actually wouldn't have taken my first statement as sarcasm. I don't think that this game is going to be made any less for PC because it's being brought to the consoles. You know, some people, that's a major concern, and I totally get that. But we know that from the moment this game started development, it was developed with the PC gamer in mind. You know, years and years have gone by this being a PC game, and consoles, well, that's just a new development, right? So I'm looking at this not as like a console to PC port. If anything, it's a PC to console port. So yes, I'm excited because people are going to get what they want, and if they're happy, my friends are happy, I guess I'm happy too.
All right, Brian, what about you?
So, you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them moving to the multi-platforms. It's just a bigger market for them to go after. But the one thing that I'm most excited for doing it is because there was the mega server, there was only going to be one server first. I think that was one of my favorite things with MMOs was the server first. So now there'll be three. And I think that we'll see a trend that the PC users are going to be the ones always getting the server first, just because that's the community. We're all hardcore, you know. There's like that difference between console gamers. And one of the users over at GameSkinny, I hope he's watching, Dale7656 brought up a really good point that the console users, for the most part, are going to be people who don't go for PC stuff anyway. They only play on consoles. So the MMO market is really strange to them. They haven't really played anything in the MMO market. So they'll end up being less critical of the game because it'll be really their first MMO. So I'm glad.
That was a consoleless stereotype.
Sorry. So while you're on that, real quick, what was the or what were some of the console-based MMOs? Because I guess I'm just not thinking of them.
I got one for you. I remember this. Us old farts from back in the day remember Final Fantasy XI was on consoles.
Ah, yes.
The EverQuest Online Adventures, I believe it was called, that was on consoles.
PlayStation 2.
And what? Oh man, there was at least one more that I can think of, but I can't remember the name.
ECO.
Fantasy Star, yeah, Fantasy Star Online. Was DC Universe on a console?
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
Apparently.
But it was
There you
terrible.
go.
Ants is a modern one.
Defiance.
So there are plenty. I'm curious though if those, because I know Final Fantasy XI was made so you could play on console and PC together. The Elder Scrolls, no, Elder Scrolls, derp. The EverQuest starts with an E. It's similar enough. The EverQuest, the EverQuest Online Adventures, that was just for console, so there wasn't anyone there. But there's two things I actually have question-wise for you guys that I'm really curious about what you think. First, would the console markets, like, would those worlds be smaller? Because I figure MMO players on PC, would there be a lot more people playing there versus those other worlds? If you split the worlds, does that make those servers smaller? And would they change the servers for console players based on, I don't know, console stereotypes, we'll say, and make it a little bit easier for them? And change sort of the... I don't know.
Let's say it this way: the console gamers make up 70% of the gaming market. So,
Fact.
Yeah, let me jump in on this one because I haven't taken a crack at the console issue yet for this question. I don't know. I mean, I think when the console thing was announced, there was like a lot of really crazy stuff being said around the internet. I mean, the console people were thrilled because they were getting like this. They were getting the new Elder Scrolls game where they weren't expecting it. The PC community was, divided to say the least. Like I saw some pretty, ludicrous statements being thrown out there. People saying things like, a scientific study concluded that console players find arrow to the knee jokes 80% more amusing, while PC players are 100% less impressed by 360 no-scope headshots or something. I mean, there's like all the stereotypes for flying, and I mean, I can understand that. It is a different type of player demographic, but at the same time, I'm not sure that the market's smaller. And I think a lot of it depends on their business model announcement, and I think that the console edition may have some effect on that. I mean, that's like a whole nother question, but I mean, if you look at the Skyrim sales, for example, all of the millions of box sales that they can get through console sales, it's more content. It almost, I mean, this is like, I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx the game, but it almost guarantees ESO financial success to a certain extent. I mean, reaching that entire new market, and so that gives them the resources they need to focus on content development, to focus on building the features and staying true to the vision for their game that they've been going for from the start, maybe without having to feel like they have to compromise that in order to, meet financial objectives.
Another great thing is it's going to be an early launch title for these systems as well, which is another major point for it.
But can we agree there's a slight difference between this is generalizing, but between a console player who can play a game, pick it up, play for like however long and drop it, versus someone in an MMO community who is, I am committed to destroying this dragon and I will wait 6.5 hours to do so. Like that, those are two different types of people. And I don't know how they mesh, which is why I'm wondering, because they're on different servers, if those servers will have tweaks to things to make it so console players can keep their average, like, I'm going to do what I want to do, or
Jesse,
what they're going to do.
I sort of agree with you to a point, but the thing is my own personal experience is this. I've enjoyed doing exactly that in an MMO, and I've enjoyed, picking up a controller on my console, playing a quick game of, Gears 2 with my buddies online, and then just putting the controller down and then going back to an MMO. I think it depends on... I think a lot of people play consoles for a reason, and then play MMOs for a different reason, and it's just sort of like a mindset. What do I feel like playing today? Do I have the time to sit down and play a couple of hours of World of Warcraft or Rift? Or do I have only a couple of minutes before I run out and get my chores done? So let me sit down and play, try and see if I can get through that board of Gears. A gamer is a gamer is a gamer, and I think the line between the old EverQuest guys on the PC back in the day and the old Modern Warfare dudes on console is really blurring very much as technology and software becomes more accessible to everybody.
Well, I think the positives of the console announcement, some people have pointed those out, but the negatives, I mean, we can speculate, but honestly, the degree to which the console announcement might be a negative ends up being dependent on to what degree it impacts their developmental objectives for the game. I mean, will it change the way that they approach developing? Will it change the way they approach content? Will it change the way they approach UI? I mean, if they're still focused on building ESO to be an MMO that's successful on the PC platform, and then they adapt the UI for consoles and they make it accessible to the console market, then I think you can paint that as a big win for ZeniMax. But if it changes fundamentally the way that they're building the game in a way that the MMO market doesn't like, the game I'm sure will still be successful, but there might be more negatives to be drawn from that type of shift.
That's complete old stigmata. I'm convinced nothing needs to be changed for the UI interface to compensate for the controller, and that's it. The core of the game won't change because the consoles nowadays are PCs. And
yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying the core of the game will change, but I'm saying that, if their philosophy does shift, which I'm not claiming that it will, don't get me wrong. But, if they change it to target more to the console market, then I think a lot of the negatives that people have been pointing out you could make more of an argument for that. But if they stay true to their vision for the game that they've had since they began developing it, then I don't see this console thing as being a negative in any way.
Here's what, if I could just get one thing out real quick. I'm sorry, Jesse, to talk over you. Here's the one thing I've always been really excited about the development of this game. ZeniMax Online Studios has never walked away from the question, how is this an Elder Scrolls game? What makes an Elder Scrolls game? Whenever you hear about their design decisions, the first question they ask is, okay, but is that Elder Scrolls? And hopefully that helps everything out in the end. I'm sorry again, Jesse. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that then the question then becomes, and this goes back to my original question that I asked you guys, when it comes down to that console and PC user, what does that mean for pricing? Because going back to, even though I generalized, and you sort of agreed with me on this, is that a console player, a lot of the time, you're looking for a different experience when you play it, right? You're playing that while you're waiting for something to happen on the computer, or maybe you're doing different things. Are they going to be willing to pay a monthly fee in order to play a game over what they're paying to have access to the internet to play games, like PlayStation Plus or Gold Pass on Xbox? I have no clue. So what does that mean for the pricing of the actual game? Could it be free to play?
What does that mean though for downloads and patches over time? Do you think there's going to be a different patching schedule?
That's what I mean. There's lots of things there that good thing we don't have to consider it, but ZeniMax does, because that's something that would affect console users. I guarantee a console user is going to stay away from a game where they have to pay extra over what they're already paying for it, just because that sort of I guess that experience they have already. Because if I'm on a console game, I pay for it, and then that's it. I'm like, I don't want to deal with all your DLC BS. And I'm more likely on a PC to pay a monthly fee. I mean, hell, I did it for like 6 years in WoW. So I don't know. I don't know what their strategy there would be. That's why I'm asking you guys, I guess.
It'd be very simple, actually. It'd be the same thing you see in every MMO, it'd just be a patch run-through. They would just delay the PC one a little bit to coincide with the Xbox and Sony regulations to pass through. So they'd be like, have everything ready a week in advance, let it go through Sony and Xbox, say, okay, we're going to release this patch on this day when they know all systems are going to coincide. That's what Gearbox does, for instance, with Borderlands. Every DLC, everything that they do patch always at the same time because they submit it for equal timing. So I don't think you're going to be paying any extra for patches or anything like that.
That's one of the things I really worry about, though.
Monthly fee, well, that's always on the table for them. There are games, there are MMOs, and I know some people will say that there isn't, but there is, that charge monthly fees. Final Fantasy XI was one of them, to play it on a console. So that's not saying okay, it's going to be on a console, so it has to be free. That's not the case. It could very well go for a to play. In fact, it's easy enough for Sony and Xbox to say you can play this, you can have this game, you can play online, but because there's a monthly fee, we're not going to charge you to do Xbox Gold or the PS Plus in order to play this game, which is, I believe, something they're already planning on doing.
How different is the code, though? I mean, realistically, given the platform. I mean, what are the major challenges there?
Nice thing about this modern system is that Sony and Microsoft are trying to streamline the gaming industry. None of this, okay, well, we have to drastically change the entire engine just to fit the PlayStation 3 and then change it again to fit into the Xbox. the code is all streamlined because they're building the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as PCs, and it's going to be only slight tweaks. It's not. It's going to be a coder's dream when it comes to porting multi-console.
Well, the architecture similarities between the platforms, I mean, that is a strength of the next-gen consoles. But in terms of development cycle, patch cycle, stuff like that, I almost think they have to keep them separate. I don't think they can delay patches for PC community based on restrictions by PSN or Xbox Live. I mean, if you've got a game-breaking exploit in an MMO, you can't wait to hotfix that just because PSN has, regulations on, on updating the game. So I almost think that I expect that the cross-platform development cycles will be similar, but I would be surprised if they delayed content to release it simultaneously.
They won't. Just look at DLCs and how they never seem to release on all the consoles at the same time. They always seem to be delayed between PC and console. So I definitely don't think you'll see delays between patches for the different platforms.
You won't.